Welcome to Balkans Debrief from me, Ilva, Tare, a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Europe Center. My guest today is Viola von Cramon, a member of European Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee and the Rapporteur on Kosovo. The European Parliament's resolution strongly condemning Serbia's actions in Kosovo was a significant development in the crisis. It called for a freeze on funding for Serbia's government if it is found to have been directly involved in the recent violence in north of Kosovo, also while condemning Serbia for its dangerous policy towards Kosovo and its Western partners. Viola, thank you for joining Balkans Debrief. And what do you hope to achieve with this resolution?
Thanks a lot, Ilva, for having me here. To be honest, I think it's overdue to send a very clear message to Belgrade on the Banjska incident terrorist attack. I think that not just we in the European Parliament, but also the other EU institutions, many member states, were extremely irritated by what actually happened. And that a group of heavily armed paramilitaries could enter the north of Kosovo. And then in the end, it came to this shooting, to the barricades, and the whole scenery where nobody really, until now, knows what happened. So for us, it is crystal clear. What we would like to see is an independent investigation conducted by Kosovo, but with the full cooperation of the Serbian authorities, of the Serbian leadership. Of course, there will be support by ULEX and the international partners, but it is mainly Serbia who has to come up with a proof. And then we would like to see that the partners go back to the dialogue, because in the end, we need to see that there is a political will to come up with successes. And that is, I think, what was missing for the last weeks.
What do you think the European Commission, the EU, should do to ensure that Serbia will fully cooperate with the investigation into the Banjska attack? Do you trust that the EU Commission and the Council will take a similar approach as the MEPs on this issue?
Well, this is hopefully this time the case. We know we have a problem with the Commissioner himself. He's a fellow from Hungary, and that's definitely not easy, knowing that Belgrade and Budapest work very close together. In this respect, it is also Oliver Verhelyi who sometimes put his foot on the brake. But what we do hope is, first of all, that the EU will finally come up with targeted sanctions against individuals who are clearly involved in these criminal attacks. Radojevic has admitted that he's behind this paramilitary group. The US and UK, they have sanctioned already a group of others as well, so this would be necessary. Second point is we need to have restrictive measures against Serbia in case they will not fully cooperate, which would mean to cut some funds and also to have political consequences on the negotiation, on the association. And on the other hand, we would like to see that of course, we support the citizens. This should not harm, and this should not give the citizens the impression that they are kept hostage under the leadership of President Vučić.
Viola, I saw the resolution, and it mentions Serbia. Actually, it condemns Serbia for its dangerous policy towards Kosovo and its Western partners. Do you have any more information to share with our audience? What is this dangerous activity that Serbia is playing?
Well, I mean, in general, it's not a secret that the situation in the north of Kosovo is not a stabilizing, but a destabilizing factor. It is being used intentionally from Belgrade whenever it is useful for them. So whenever President Vučić has a problem at home domestically, he uses the north of Kosovo, and that is not in our interest, neither in the EU nor for the other Western Balkan states. A second thing is, of course, if you look at the media sector, if you look how much kind of misinformation is being spread in the Serbian-speaking communities and countries, that is not helpful to come to the table, to come to compromise, to reconcile, to also convince your own population that in the end they have to reconsider how to work together and how to cooperate with Kosovo. So all this is in the hand of one man, and there, yes, we see that the Serbian politics from Serbia has caused a lot of damage in the region.
The resolution mentions appeasement towards Serbia and actually calls on the European Commission to act as an honest broker in the normalization process. How can the Commission address this issue? Or how has it addressed it before when you, as Member of Parliament, European Parliament, has expressed concerns on this appeasement towards Serbia? Do you genuinely think that the Commission can gain the trust of both parties at this point?
Well, we have always watched and observed that the Commission was rather tolerant and laissez-faire when it came to the lack of implementation of domestic reforms in Belgrade. So many of the reforms which are crucial for us, valuables like rule of law, judiciary, independent media sector, freedom of press as such has not been respected by the government of Serbia. And yes, it never had real consequences set up by the Commission, and that is a problem. Of course, the other countries are watching this behavior and the reaction by the Commission, and we are making a fool out of ourselves if we let this happen. So I think if we could be much more precise in what we expect from the Serbian government, this would have also an impact on the dialogue.
Can you tell us more about the containment plan of NATO K4 that is mentioned in the resolution? Does the European Parliament envision an increase of numbers or even of powers of the K4 NATO?
No, I think the power as such is absolutely fine. I mean, the deployment of soldiers is the security guarantee for the entire Western Balkan region. I mean, I've just been to Armenia and we see how it looks like if there aren't any K4 soldiers, if there aren't any troops deployed. So this is the security, and that is also the protection for the people in the region. But we saw that UK has strengthened this K4 soldiers or K4 troops with 200, and there was a reinforcement by Romania. And we would propose that other states would go in a similar way. We see it is very much interlinked with the EUFOR troops in Bosnia. So the more in the north, in the situation of Bosnia is, is under threat, we need to consider to have a good backup with K4 troops. And therefore, I think it is very much in our interest, it is in the interest and the security of the people in Kosovo to have a more ambitious contingent there.
The resolution also requires a return to the EU-led dialogue and the de-escalation of the situation in the north of Kosovo. Are the new elections in the 4 municipalities required to be held as soon as possible, now that the Lista Srpska has confirmed its participation also?
Well, I mean, that is part of the Ohrid agreement, and it was always a question whether Srpska Lista would be the first one to say that they participate. I hope there will be also other candidates, independent candidates, not just one list. But in general, I think this is a good signal towards the authorities in Kosovo. And now they have to come up with a plan how to arrange and what kind of procedure they can propose for the new elections. But I think that is in our joint interest to have a higher legitimacy for the mayors in the north.
And are you optimistic for concrete results on a new phase of the EU-led dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia?
Dealing with the Western Balkans, it's always hard to say that one is optimistic. But I would say, since we will face upcoming elections next June, we will also see next November the presidential election in the US. The clock is ticking, and it's better to speed up a little bit while the European Parliament, Special Envoy, plus the US work hand in hand. That was not always the case. And it can be in both favor of Pristina and of Belgrade to come up with successes and with achievements as soon as possible.
I agree. Definitely, the window of opportunity is closing any day now. But I would like to discuss with you on that viral video of your visit in May in north of Kosovo, when you were discussing in front of the newly elected municipalities, mayors, and the Kosovo soldiers who brought you here, and they said we had orders that were protecting the new mayors. Should things have been done different? Perhaps the elections shouldn't have been held without the participation of Kosovo Serbs, and the international community should not have recognized them as it did.
No, I think that somebody recorded what I was, and then in this moment trying to say was rather easy. I mean, if you have seen this community neighborhood with 3-4 heavily armed vehicles with masked special police forces, and you knew from the international community that there was an informal agreement coming from the Kosovo government not to use Kosovo special police in front of the municipalities to bring the mayors into the Rathaus, into the municipal building. I think there was a breach of trust. And honestly, people living around there, they had not left the houses for 2 or 3 days. That's why in this moment I was very emotional, but unfortunately I was talking to this special police guys for more than 10 minutes, but it was only recorded for 10 seconds. So we had a very intense, very good conversation. I went to 4 different municipalities where I've spoken to all the police people. It's not that I was yelling at one only for a few seconds, but I was really informing myself on the ground, was speaking to different ordinary people, different representatives from NGOs, from the police and so on. So I spent a full day on the ground and I saw what was coming, and I knew on Monday it would be escalate. And that is what I thought could have been prevented if the special police would have been withdrawn before, and if we had found a solution how to work together with the mayors, but maybe not from this particular building. That was my proposal. That was the proposal of the Quint ambassadors, and we were not heard. And that's why I think everyone was rather upset at that very moment. Of course, Kosovo has the right to do so, but we all said, is it smart? I don't think it was a smart idea to proceed. And we also knew that 2 of the mayors were not even in favor of going there. They were forced to go there. So, and when you listen to those, strategies, I don't think this really helps to bring people together. That was my major concern and my major critics.
ASM It was also included in the resolution, a request that it has to be implemented. Do you think this time around Pristina's government will implement it?
Well, I mean, there is a signature under the Brussels Agreement from 2013 and 2015. And we in the European Union have 16 different models for so-called association of municipalities. And it's up to the Kosovo government to pick one and to adapt it, to adjust it to their own environment, legal environment, and to make it appropriate according to their constitution. Nobody wants anyone to break the constitution, to go against the constitution. But yes, I think that everyone expects this to happen while this is still waiting to be implemented for 10 years now.
Do you believe the process of the visa liberalization for Kosovo is in danger after President Macron's statement in Tirana? And should this process be conditioned with the normalization dialogue?
No, nobody was in favor of risking to suspend the visa liberalization at any moment. I think that Macron was never in favor. He used it for whatever reason, but I think it was in the end a mistake in the translation. So that's why I have not commented on that. It was crystal clear, visa libre will come. I have not heard any diverging voices regarding this issue.
So there will not be any conditionality if the parties don't go in the dialogue again. Something will happen. Another delay will happen with the visa liberalization, in your opinion?
No. I said there will be no other delay. This is nothing what I've heard. Even Macron likes to play with it.
As a member of European Parliament, what do you think was the biggest achievement of the Berlin Process Summit in Tirana? And as a German, how do you see Germany's enlargement in the Western Balkans EU enlargement process?
Well, first of all, I do regret that President Vučić has not taken place. To be honest, I think this would be the right signal. If you take this process seriously, if you want to be a player in the Western Balkans, you can't just leave and let it to your substitute, to the prime minister. Yes, there was further work on the regional economic integration. This is important. This is necessary. And it was also a good signal that one of the Western Balkan countries was hosting this Berlin process for the first time. So those two, I would say, bigger political signals are important. But for example, this episode of the Serbian prime minister and the flag and not being or not wanted to be on the picture, that was for me very immature and again a little step back and completely unnecessary. But in general, I would say to meet, to organize regional meetings like this, to make sure there is a political will, especially in economic and political integration, I think this is a good signal.
Viola, and lastly, right after our interview, you are already in the train station, so you'll jump into a train to go to Ukraine. And as we all know, in the recent month, Ukraine has been driving the newly found energy for the EU enlargement due to the geopolitical context and the impact of the war. What should the Western Balkan countries, in your view, do to finally jump in this train and this enlargement train and do not miss the opportunity?
Well, definitely. For the first time, there is a will and there is a big ambition coming from the EU. Macron has recently spoken about that, I think, in Bratislava, and was rather open. And that is, as you said before, the window of opportunity for all the Western Balkan states. But they have to do their homework. And of course, Ukraine is extremely ambitious. They have even during wartime adopted so many EU-related legislative files. This is so impressive. And of course, they do what they can. And Moldova is on the same page. And we shouldn't compare those situations. There's no question. But of course, there is, I would say, a big impetus coming from Ukraine also towards the Western Balkans. If you do not watch, we will pass you. Even we started much later, and this shouldn't happen. I think Western Balkan is our inner yard. They are close to us. They got the promise over 20 years ago, and they should be the first ones taking the hurdle, so to say.
Is there any front runner as we speak in the Western Balkans on the EU accession, in your opinion?
We all hoped that it would be North Macedonia, but then, of course, the neighbors didn't play too well into this game. So for North Macedonia, it's extremely difficult at the moment to come up with the constitutional changes. Montenegro was the second biggest hope, so to say. It's small, it was progressive governed, but since it is increasingly difficult to form a new government and so on, we do not know what will be the outcome of this future
new
government. But in general, I think that one of those countries should be in the lead. I hope as soon as possible.
Thank you very much for taking time to talking to our audience, and thank you for watching us.
Thank you so much for having me.